Welcome to the very first update on the War Within tier list. The first ever changes we have. Today, we're going to discuss everything. What's happening with all the classes, how they're looking like, what exactly has changed, and most importantly, how they rank between each other. If you guys haven't already seen it, we do this pretty much every single Sunday. If there are more changes coming in before the season, I will make sure to guys update you. For now, this is the first update, official update of the War Within tier list. And I will be looking forward. Shall there be more changes? But let's begin. I'm gonna explain each of the sections before I begin. After that, I'm gonna start on. Okay. So, what exactly is underperforming? Okay, Ramos, impressive, best candidate, and top tier. It's pretty simple. So underperform. Okay. So top tier is something that I consider pretty much S+. Like, it doesn't really matter if you play, for example, mid-level keys, any group comp, high keys. I consider top tier pretty much like an absolute insane pick. Like, good everywhere. So those are the S+. Best candidates are S tier specs. What I believe is gonna be likely the choice of the season. The strongest of the strongest are gonna be here. Some of the best candidates become top tier if you play, for example, in specific compositions, like for example, Frost Mage, Arcane Mage. Let's say if they are performing impressive, or best candidates can jump a tier based on a god comp, caster comp. You know, there's a lot of examples. I just gave this as an example, so yeah. Impressive is pretty much put it A tier. This is gonna be a solid choices across the board. Mostly the classes here are missing something, whether it's a bit of utility, a bit more damage, a bit of defensiveness, or just in general syncing better with like the comps that are strong right now. It's also going to be A tier. Okay, Ramos should be B tier-ish, give or take. And then underperforming should be C tier. Now, we've had also tiers below this, but they've tried to balance a lot of the specs recently. If you guys haven't already seen it, I'm gonna attach the changes for the most recent spec changes that came out 3 days ago. I will just attach them below the video so you guys can check out the changes for yourself. But pretty much they're trying to balance every single spec so far that was underperforming. So I would say S+, S, A, B, and C if I need to put pretty much tiers on each of them. Once again, before I begin, chat, this is purely Mythic Plus. I'm targeting casual level keys. I try to target high keys, mid keys, and low level keys as a casual point of view. So if you are an experienced player, you're pushing rank 1 keys, all of the information that I'm going to tell you right now might not be relevant to you. So keep as a disclaimer. This is the target audience that this is based on. Pugging, casual level. I try to consider all the specters, high, mid, and low level keys for pugging, because most of the people, you know, playing within a mid-level keys, but trying to cover both worlds, okay? So, with all of this in mind, let's begin the actual rankings. Let's go, chat. First of all, underperforming, Fire Mage. Fire Mage goes to the very bottom. The changes done to them are merely any changes. Unfortunately for them, this is gonna be the very first season that we see Fire Mage actually being one of the worst specs in Mythic Plus. I am gonna say this, I have never in my life seen Fire Mage being the lowest DPS so far in Mythic Plus when it comes down to Mythic Plus. Like, literally never. Ever since Mythic Plus exists in Legion until now, for the past 7 years, Fire was never bottom DPS. This is the first time in history that they are gonna enter the new expansion as a bottom Mythic Plus DPS. Now, the picture is a little bit different in like rating. In rating, they are a little bit more around below average, not really insane, but not bad either. You know, so for Mythic Plus, however, first of all, damage output across the lowest, single target across the lowest, AoE as well. You have amazing utility, good mob control and utility, but damage wise right now you are one of the lowest. So perhaps a further adjustments on Fire Mage. The ones that they've got, Pyroblast 5% buff, for example, Flame Strike 10% buff, which is kind of, by the way, useless. Bomb also got buffed a little bit as well. Like, generally speaking, they just need a lot more from that to get better. But Fire Mage has absolutely everything to climb the ladder. Shall there be more changes in regards to Fire Mage? And that's gonna be BM Hunter. BM Hunter received a small buffs on behalf of the hero talents, which are they going to be playing pack leader. I still believe that you are going to be one of the lowest performing specs due to their low damage output. Burst wise, I guess depends if you're going to play Call of the Wild. You have nice burst if you play that talent. Sustained damage across the lowest single target is going to be okay, nothing too impressive in Mythic Plus. Heavily due to this, I think you're going to be likely one of the least played specs right now on purely for Mythic Plus. I think rating wise is completely different story. You are going to be infinitely better than Mythic Plus performance. Shall there be more buffs to sustain AoE damage? I don't think they're going to be in a bad spot, but so far the way they are, I think C tier is probably where you're going to be placed for the rest of the expansion, unless they get more buffs. Right now both MM and Survival are a better choice than you in Mythic Plus. The next in line is going to be Protection Paladin. Currently, Protection Paladin is the lowest performing tank due to their durability. Damage wise, they have no problems there. Utility across the best. Nice, like you have the ability to help your team in dangerous situations, like for example, sacks and freedoms and lay on hands and bobs, off heals with Word of Glory if needed. But speaking from your own self-sustain, speaking purely from like your own ability to like sustain, be durable, you have one of the lowest, which is pretty bad. Simply because of this, I think you are going to be in OK tier. Shall there be more changes on behalf of Protection Paladin, like for example increasing their durability? I don't doubt they're going to climb higher, but for now speaking, compared to the rest of the guys, you are the lower performing ones, but still good enough to be at least on a B tier. Holy Priest and Discipline Priest pretty much, which right now are purely focused. So Holy Priest didn't get anything, so that's fine. But I'm gonna talk about Disc Priest. Disc Priest, first of all, went from underperforming to okay because of the buffs to Atonement. If you guys haven't already paid attention, Discipline Priest received a massive amount of buffs on behalf of the Atonement, so their HPS profile is now looking way better than before. Hence why I believe you are going to be upping at least a tier. You might still struggle in healing encounters, heavy healing encounters, but you are going to be handling that way better. Way better. Which is something that I myself consider them previous weak point. Again, mob control, you know, doing for example stops, etc. as something that you're going to be the weakest out of any hitter, because the only thing you have is your fear. You don't have any source of stopping except that. No interrupt, only fear, and that's pretty much it. And some mobs are immune to fear too, which is which is something that most people don't really care about, right? On behalf of utility, again, PI, Mind Suit, you have the ability to give you the gift to the team, PS, the barrier, for example. What else? You have stamina, right? So all of this can obviously have a way to help your team improve in terms of performance. But comparing this to the rest of the classes, where mostly all of them are better either in damage department or healing department, you're probably gonna fall behind. Utility wise is not a problem. The problem is better mob control, which is something that, you know, they need. More HPS, which is something that it will buff them even further, or just more damage, like one of those things, right? Also, it doesn't help you from being one of the hardest hitters to play Mythic Plus. This is extremely hard hitter to play if you are a beginner player, you have no previous experience playing Disc Priest or in general experience playing these dungeons. You're gonna find this extremely unpleasant to get familiar with this shit. Next in line is going to be Holy Priest. I think Holy Priest is going to be slightly better than Disc Priest most often than ever. Contrary to Disc Priest, this is going to be one of the easiest heroes to play, which is going to give you an ability to react quicker if, for example, something's happening with your team. Let's say your team is taking like unnecessary damage. You can react to it, which is pretty fine. You'll be able to get yourself, top up the rest of the party quickly with no issues. I still think you're gonna have better output than Disc Priest, which is gonna be a W here. Both healing and DPS. Utility wise, close to the same as Disc Priest, except that you don't have a barrier, you don't have a pain sub, but you have GS, which is something that can help us to save a teammate. Other than that, same thing here. Mob control could be a little bit better if you could include Justice in that, but overall still weak. I think mobility, durability can be improved on both Holy and Disc Priest. I would love to see that being the case. Also, no interrupt for Holy as well, which is going to be a massive issue, especially in those dungeons where it's like a lot of heavy caster oriented dungeons like Grim Battle, Stone Vault. I just gonna find it pretty hard to play this without a kick, without the extra kick, sorry. So yeah, I think both healers right now are gonna be in okay tier. MD, oh yeah, true, actually, sorry, I didn't mention MD. MD actually doesn't have a lot of value in this season though. Like, poisons and curses are a lot more often than, magical dispels. So there's not a lot of places where MD actually could be savior. I'm just trying to think right now. Bursting is gone. And there's some cases like City of Threats. Second boss MD is pretty good. But yeah, I mean, most often than ever, you want to be having poison dispels and curse dispels. Not a lot of diseases either, to be honest with you. Yeah, not a lot of diseases either. I'm trying to think right now. One in Necrotic Wake disease spell. I think there's one in a Dawnbreaker, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think poisons and curses are gonna be a lot more often. Admit. Anyway, chat. That's about healers and tanks. Let's go to the most interesting part. Chat, next in line is gonna be Destruction Lock, going up a tier, going from underperforming to okay Ramos. So pretty much around B tier, which I think is fair enough for them. They've received a 5% buff on behalf of their overall damage. Single target in AoE has gotten slightly better. Ramp up damage here could be an issue if you do play lower level keys, but the higher the key goes, specifically on high level keys, you are gonna be doing well. You might even climb to the impressive tier, depending on the amount of pulls you are playing, or like, I guess depending on how your tank plays pretty much. So there could be a possibility where you can climb higher. Group key level matters as well as group comp. So I think one of the specs that most people will sleep on, but I still believe sincerely that they're going to do fantastic. Quite durable, good mythic plus utility, decent ST, and incredible AoE, especially sustained AoE when mobs actually live longer than 10 seconds. So to get closer to, for example, Affliction and Demonology, more buffs, yeah. Especially on their single target, I would say that. But for now, I think being here is a good choice. They're not gonna do bad though. It's the Dirty Balance Druid. Dirty Balance Druid goes in a okay. And I'm gonna explain to you why exactly you are okay instead of impressive. Okay? So, first of all, to address the elephant in a room. What exactly happened to Balance Druid a few days ago? They received a small buff. That is true. A small buff on behalf of Balance Druid. I think 2.2% single target buff. And about net neutral change for AoE. That is nothing. I still believe Balance is yet to receive buffs in the upcoming days/weeks. So, even though that wasn't a lot of things, there will be a lot more coming for Balance very soon. Okay? Genuinely speaking here, you're probably gonna be doing fantastic on a high level keys just because of your incredible AoE damage profile. But on a lower level keys, you are gonna end up being one of the poorest performing specs, like something like here, for example. I'm talking about like low level keys. The higher the level keys, I think you most generally gonna define in terms of AoE though. Single target is gonna be terrible for any kind of content, like even if you play like high keys, ST is gonna be a massive issue. It is something that they still need to work on. something that you have to probably get for the buffs for you to get better. Whether they're gonna buff Status Search, for example, or anything else doesn't really matter. I think I would love to see that being the case so far, but it's not. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If they buff single target on balance, it goes to impressive immediately. Could be even higher, depends on the buffs, by the way. If I combine low level keys, mid level keys, high level keys, you are okay. Only high level keys impressive because of your insane AoE damage, also uncapped. Single target is dog shit, probably underperforming compared to like most of the specs. TLDR, okay, it's okay. B tier. Fair enough, right? Anyway, Retribution Paladin. I know. Let me explain why do I think that. I know it could be cooked. Let me tell you why do I think that. So, why do I think Retribution Paladin is okay and not insane? First of all, to address the changes that happened a few days ago, those changes that happened that got a mastery nerf but also 5% buff are gonna come down to like a slight DPS increase around 0.5, 0.6% DPS increase, which is pretty much nothing. Their single target right now is across the lowest in Mythic Plus, which is gonna be the biggest issue right now for you. AoE damage, burst AoE damage, short city cooldowns, absolutely amazing. There's no complaint there. It might not be a top tier AoE, but most definitely impressive there. In terms of durability, they are fantastic. No complaints. You have immunity, double defensive pretty much. Utility to help your team like Leon Hands, Freedom, Devotion Aura, Sag. So all of those tools are going to be insanely helpful for your team. But given the fact that your single target is one of the lowest, I think it's only fair to be put in OK tier. Similar situation to Balance Druid. Single target has to be adjusted. Outlaw Rogue going next in line. Outlaw Rogue. A lot of things can be said about Outlaw, but I'm going to give it a TLDR. One of the cap DPSs right now, lack of burst. Those are the two main issues I'm having with Outlaw. Simply based on this, I think OK tier is going to be fine for you in the grand scheme of things. Depending on the dungeons, you might climb higher. Like for example, you can go to impressive. If for example play something like Mists, something like for example, think about a dungeon that you don't pull big. Siege of Borealis, right? Actually in Siege you can pull big. Like think about a dungeon that you don't play big. Anytime you think about that, Outlaw could do good. The higher the level key you go, the stronger you're gonna become because your sustained damage is insane. The burst damage itself is a problem for them. They don't have an actual burst compared to most of the classes. So if you're playing low level keys, Outlaw could feel pretty weak. If you're pulling, for example, big all the time, Outlaw could feel very weak there, you know? So there is advantages to that, and obviously disadvantages, which is what I just told you right now. So yeah, I think OK tier for them is fine. Perhaps further adjustments could make them climb higher than this. In some of the dungeons, you can become impressive, especially on high keys. Otherwise, defensive is insane, good mobility, etc. So mob control is very strong. No complaints there. Next in line is gonna be Devastation Evoker. Devastation Evoker is a spec a lot of people will sleep on and likely not even care playing, but I'm here to tell you that Devastation Evoker is by no means bad. They just recently got buffed by around 7-ish% on AoE and 6.5, 7 on single target, which now is gonna make them as one of the top contenders for the OK tier, which is pretty much like C plus tier, I guess. Nice front load burst damage, better sustain, decent single target, several ways to have defensiveness, good utility as well, good mob control. Death Evoker has pretty much everything to be decent in any key level. Whether you're gonna play low level keys, mid level keys, high level keys, doesn't really matter. I sincerely believe that spec will be good. They might not be top tier, but as long as augmentation exists in high level keys, you are likely never gonna get invited. Unless you have a pre-made. Mid to low level keys, maybe the play, but as soon as you play high keys, this spec does not exist. That is one of the biggest, cons of that shit. Also, you are, you are also one of the specs that don't have a max range offensive indicator, I guess. It's only 25 to 30 yards, which is pretty bad for Death Evoker or in general as a range, so that's also a bit of a problematic thing for them. Where is it? Here we go. Hunter, guys. Hunter, next in line. Why do I think Hunter is the best spec on a OK tier, which is pretty much C tier? Is because I think they have the strongest AoE across all key levels in this tier. Especially burst AoE oriented damage is insane. Low level key is likely gonna be impressive here. The biggest issue of Hunter right now is just single target. Extremely poor, which is something that I don't think will be addressed sadly in the upcoming days, unless it is. If you do play raiding and you play full single target talents, that is not gonna be an issue, but for Mythic Plus build, Hunter is most definitely struggling on single target. I would really love to see that being not the case, but it is. They've got better defensively, they've got better utility, mobility is still old, still good out. If they were to improve single target, just like for example Retribution, just like for example Balance or Destrolog, then I think they're gonna go much higher. But for now, OK tier is fine for them. Brewmaster, I've put an impressive, which is pretty much around B tier. Brewmaster itself has improved a lot since Dragonflight, if you guys have already haven't noticed it. Generally speaking, to them, less bottom bloat, which is perfectly fine. Better durability, better against magical damage. Still insane damage profile. Still the same mob control. I think the only reason why I'm putting Brew to the impressive tier is just simply because of their endurance / durability, right? I still don't think they are on par with the rest of the specs on that behalf, but overall speaking here, you are going to be strong in low to mid level keys compared to high keys, and you pair better with physical damage classes, like for example warriors and rogues and enhanced shamans, frost and holy DKs, etc. You are going to be doing better with them than with casters. Still an improvement, and they're getting better and better, which I think is pretty good for them. The few heals that I gotta discuss. The first one is gonna be Monk, Mistweaver. Mistweaver, keep in mind, did not receive any changes for the past couple of days. No, weeks, sorry. Nothing has changed on behalf of them. They're still gonna be decent, or I guess pretty strong on behalf of HPS. Decent DPS, same utility, good mob control, like for example Interrupt, Ring of Peace, AoE Stun, Paralysis, right? Great utility as well. You paired better with either hybrid comps or physical combos because of your Mystic Touch debuff, which is pretty much 5% more physical damage to the whole team. Other than that, I don't like that you don't have a external DR cooldown. Cocoon is fine, but it's not a DR. And you are a melee, which sometimes could be punishing for you. Overall, I think if they were to buff your DPS a bit more, then you might climb higher. But I think for now, A tier is fine. It's a solid choice. The next two healers are going to be a little bit cooked, but Holy Paladin I think is going to be A tier, and Restoration Druid I think is going to be A tier. And I will discuss why. So starting with the Holy Paladin, for example, I think you have everything to be considered a top healer. You have immunity, one of the best mob controls. You have ability to have good stops for your team, which is going to be fine, or actually not even fine, it's going to be amazing for the upcoming season. Your general output, like whether it's going to be healing output or DPS output, is currently considered not a top one, which means you might struggle somewhere where other healers will not. That is why I'm thinking you're going to be A tier instead of being, for example, S tier, simply because of output. Whether it's healing or damage output that you are lesser than some of the hitters doesn't really matter, because others are just gonna do better in that kind of department. If they were to be buffed, for example, either damage or healing, then I think you're gonna climb a tier up. Same thing, by the way, is gonna be about Restoration Druid. The Restoration Druid has everything but HPS. You know, improved durability, insane utility, very good damage profile. HPS so far has been an issue in some instances. I still believe this is going to be one of the unicorns. A lot of people think that they're going to be bad for the whole season. I still sincerely believe they are going to be one of the killers that will be picked up a lot in Mythic Plus. I personally are going to play with Restoration Druid starting the season 1. Because I still believe that Mark of the Wild is insane. So, yeah. Even though they're not the best, I think A tier for them is going to be an absolutely fantastic choice. Survival Hunter next in line. Again, Survival received no changes this week. They pretty much are going to be the same as before. Great AoE damage, decent single target, good mob control as well, better utility. The damage itself has already been nerfed, I think 3 times in a row they nerfed Survival. So they went from top tier to best candidate, so now impressive because of those nerfs. Overall speaking, you are going to be the best Hunter spec, and you're going to be fantastic in Mythic Plus, preferably low to mid-level keys. The higher the level goes, you might be offset by other DPS specs. Overall, an impressive choice. After Survival is gonna be Arms Warrior. Arms Warrior actually did not get any changes at all as well. One of the specs that I myself at least thought they're gonna get something. Unfortunately they didn't. I think Arms Warrior is still gonna be a decent choice. You're not gonna be bad at all. Your biggest, I guess your strongest asset is obviously damage. Utility wise, is pretty much one of the lowest so far for Mythic Plus. So that is something to consider when thinking about it. You pair the best with melee combos because of your battle shout. Nice execute damage too, which could be useful in some cases. For example, overall speaking, if an impressive choice had to have a name, then I would say it's gonna be probably Arms Warrior so far. Yeah, I think like lower A tier is probably gonna be a good choice for you. I've seen a lot of other content creators saying Arms is gonna be like, for example, C tier or D tier. I don't agree with that. I think Arms is gonna be fantastic. They might not be a top pickup, but most definitely above average. Sub Rogue, just like Arms Warrior in Survival, did not receive any changes. Sub Rogue has good burst damage, good sustained damage, great single target. You are great defensively, have nice utility for your team, and a solid mob control. Unfortunately, your damage profile is nowhere as competitive as the specs on the best candidates. Hence why I think you are going to end up being A tier for now, which means a solid choice across the board, but not good enough to be considered a top contender. That is the TLDR. So, why do I think Monk is going to be impressive tier, which means pretty much A tier? I think Monk has one of the strongest front load bursts in the game, which is immensely valuable for low to mid level keys, both on single target and AoE. By the way, I want to say this, which is again a huge asset to them. Several ways to handle dangerous situations, which is pretty much defensiveness. Nice mob control. Mystic Touch can be paired very well with like full melee squad, which is insane. I don't think your sustained damage can be on par with some of the candidates above you, or even during best candidates, for example, but everything else for Monk is fantastic. If they were to have better sustained damage without really harming their burst damage, then I would say they're going to climb higher. But for now, I think A+ tier is going to be a good choice. I think for raiding, you're also going to be solid. So in case you are going to be raiding on Monk, you're going to be solid. Maybe not top tier, but most definitely above average, which is going to be a W for you. Next in line, a cooked take. Feral Druid going next. Speaking about Feral Druid, nothing really major has happened to you for the past 3.5 weeks so far. A lot of people will count you out of Mythic Plus, but I think you're gonna be A tier if anything. Strong AoE profile. You have now a slightly slower rotation than Dragonflight, so less bloated, I guess. Which, by the way, is gonna get probably fixed with higher secondary stats. Better defensiveness, good utility, good mob control. Single target is a little bit lackluster in some cases, but AoE profile is gonna be fantastic, which is gonna be probably gonna carry you there. If you wanna get higher in terms of performance or I guess placement, the only change that you have to be pushed in is gonna be more buffs. Other than this, it's kind of hard to maximize the damage out of Pharaoh, but I still believe you are gonna be A tier across all key levels: low, mid, high keys. Shadow Priest. I know what you're thinking. Now let me explain why do I think Shadow Priest will be next in line. I think that I have misjudged Shadow Priest last time, and I'm gonna explain why. Shadow Priest, I still believe you are gonna be best candidates-ish, aka S tier performance on the high level keys. But if I have to include mid-level, low-level keys, I think things actually die too quick for you. Utilize your whole long burst. Hence why I think A tier for now would probably be a better suitable placement for you currently. Other than that, strong cooldowns, especially burst cooldowns, decent sustain, again, stamina buff, PI, Mind Suit, MD, Vampiric Embrace, all of these are very, very useful for you to help your team. But given the right composition and the length of the key, or I guess the difficulty of the key, your performance will most definitely climb to the S tier, which is pretty much best candidates. But if I have to rank them as a standalone spec, including the low level keys and mid level keys, as well as the high level keys, you are gonna be around A tier so far. But right comp, high level keys, for sure you're gonna climb higher. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. I hope you guys got it. Okay. Unholy DK goes next in line. Wait, what the fuck did I do? Unholy DK goes next in line. I still believe sincerely that they're gonna be a great pickup for any key level. But due to their sustained damage, I think you are gonna end up being impressive, which is A tier, instead of being S tier. Strong burst, decent sustain, good single target, nice mob control, very, very tanky by the way. So I think overall speaking here, you are likely to see a little bit more of a hinge to play with a pre-made grouping, because I sincerely believe that in a full pre-made group, you can unlock the full potential of Unholy. If you are playing this in a pug group, especially low level keys to mid level keys, then you might have to, you know, play Frost instead of Unholy. You might struggle a little bit. But the hierarchy goes, the longer the mob lives, I think you're gonna go there. You're gonna go there, you know. I think you're gonna climb there for sure. Havoc DH unchanged from last time. Havoc DH, what can I say about them? Strong burst cooldowns, which is gonna be a very, very big plus for low level keys, mid level keys. Good sustained damage, great single target. Durability, it's okay if you count self-sustain in it. Self-do immunity, nice mob control, great party-wide utility. Chaos Brand, AoE stun for example, darkness, etc. I guess purge as well could be used in some cases as well. So I think overall you're a good pickup. If you will get further buffs, you might climb higher. I think for now A tier is gonna be good for you. Fury Warrior, I'm gonna go quick guys so we can get to the best candidates. Fury Warrior, no changes, still solid choice here. Nice short cities, short offensive cities, good burst, good frontal damage, great sustained damage, good single target. Pretty much the lowest utility in the game. Battle Shout could be actually very useful if you play with a full melee comp. Unfortunately, most of the melees right now are not considered top tier. That might not be part of the equation. Overall, I think you are going to be a solid contender for this. But if I gotta be honest with you, you might not see a lot of playtime due to how dominant caster meta has been for the past couple of years. Still, solid choice. You're gonna have fun playing. Easy spec to play as well. Last but not least, Demonology Warlock. Once again, Demonology goes to be the best performing spec on the A tier. Overall, they didn't see any changes so far. but has one of the most balanced damage profile across all specs in the game. Great single target, great AoE, good burst damage, good burst single target, very strong defensively, good utility. Pretty much have everything you need to climb higher, shall there be more buffs on you. I don't have any complaint on Demonology, except not having the highest damage. That's about impressive. Blood DK, although you did not get any changes, I still think you're gonna be a solid choice across all key levels. Nice self-sustain, pretty much the best one, which means that you are not as reliant on tanks compared to other, not as reliant on healers compared to other tanks. Nice mob control, like for example stun, disturb effect, grips, etc., which can help you stop a lot of casts. I guess like grippy hands can also be considered a stop, right? CR, which is very important for Mythic Plus composition. Sadly, you don't have any buff to the party except AMZ, but that's not really a buff to the party. Other than that, I think you're gonna be a solid choice across all team compositions, whether you're playing a caster comp, melee comp, or hybrid comp. You're gonna be good there. Solid choice. I would say Protection Warrior comes. Actually, hold on, sorry. After this, gonna be Vengeance DH. I'll talk about Vengeance first, and I'll talk about Protection Warrior. So previously, if you guys remember, Vengeance DH had a bug where they got a lot better survivability compared to what they should have been having. That bug got resolved a week ago. So now they're getting back to kind of like a mid-ish survivability, which is going to be the biggest issue for them. Damage-wise, never an issue. They're very strong damage-wise. The best mob control so far in the game. They're the best tank when it comes down to caster comp because of your Chaos brand. Very mobile as well. Nice mob controls. I already mentioned this one. Health sustain is going to be okay. Durability is pretty much the biggest issue for you. You might struggle somewhere where other tanks does not. If that area gets to be improved or further buffed, I think you're going to be top tier tank. For now, I think being in the best candidates is likely going to be a massive thing for you. And I would not be surprised, even though you are not the best defensively, end up being, for example, top tier because of the caster comp. Caster comp means, for example, Mage, Augmentation, another ranged spec, Vengeance DH, because of the Chaos brand. Why do I think Protection Warrior is going to be best candidate? Simply because of two things. Damage, durability, that's it. Even though your utility is pretty much one of the lowest so far, your pure damage output is insane. You're also very tanky when it comes down to mitigating damage. Yes, sustained magical damage could pretty much spike you down, but overall, I think you don't really have any issues with like anything else right now. Spell Deflect, there is not much value out of that in this season. I mean, there's some scenarios, but yeah, overall, not a lot of things that you can Spell Deflect. Like, I'm thinking about like big boss, you know. Utility pretty shit, honestly. Shockwave, I guess, is great stop, but you don't have any meaningful party buff except Battle Shout, you know. And again, if it's a caster meta, Battle Shout is pretty much useless. Rallying Cry could be useful in some cases every 3 minutes, but honestly, it is not as good, for example, as Chaos brand of Vengeance, for example. Darkness as well, probably better than Rallying Cry. CR is something that is an issue for both Vengeance and Protection Warrior, but I guess depending on the healers you have or a DPS you have, you don't really care about it. Yeah, Mass Silence, of course, it's most definitely useful in some cases. Yeah. But again, if you're talking about like stops or like mob control, I think both Blood DK and Vengeance have better mob control than you. You might have better mob control than Guardian Druid, for example, but yeah, not really a big room to improve here. I guess, sorry, to compare. So I don't think there's a clear winner across all of this. If there's a melee meta, then I think Prot Warrior can climb here. If there's a hybrid meta / caster meta, Vengeance, you know. That's about best candidates so far, at least on behalf of tanks. About healers, There's only one healer that I consider best candidate so far, and that's gonna be P Evoker. P Evoker is a spec that I don't think will end up being meta for one specific reason. It is way harder for you to utilize your whole healing toolkit when playing with the pugs. A lot of players have no idea how to play with Preservation Evoker, which means they don't understand positioning, they don't understand how your spec works, and I don't think you can get the best out of your spec just because of this. If you are playing in a pre-made group and actually people are mindful about your location, then that should not be an issue. But other than this, it will be a massive issue. But damage-wise, absolutely insane. Healing-wise, insane. Again, if your team is aware how to play around P Evoker, because if you have 2 range staying outside, 1 melee staying in melee, you know, you might struggle there. But yeah, other than that, it's gonna be a fantastic choice. Sorry, mob control also very strong as well. Several stops, interrupt as well. The 25-yard healing or 30, yeah, it could be an issue, but if you actually play around it, not as massive, I would say. Still an issue though. And last thing, if you obviously having augmentation, then you lose a lot of value playing preservation. Fair enough, you know, unfortunately. Next in line is gonna be Affliction Warlock. Hold on, let me explain. Wait a second, I will tell you why do I think Affli is worse than Frostmage. I will explain why. Before you lose your shit, I will explain everything. First, specifically talking about Affliction. Best candidates means pretty much S tier. Affliction Warlock is incredibly valuable when it comes down to actually burst damage. Like whether it's gonna be single target, burst, AoE burst, every minute, 2 minutes, with a prior damage, Affliction Warlock is top tier. From high durability, good mob, good party wide utility, great damage. I think overall right now, the biggest issue with Affli, if there was to have any issue, is the fact that you sometimes can run into dilemma whether you're gonna refresh Agony or actually keep on pumping ruptures with like corruptions up, right? Just because of your Vow 10 not being long enough for you to refresh Agony. That is really the biggest thing for Affliction Warlock so far, which I think pretty much sucks big time. If that was to be resolved, then I think they could do like actually a better than what they do. Sustained damage as well, if you don't have like a minute cooldown or a 2-minute cooldowns, could be an issue. So keep that in mind. Sustained damage could be an issue if you don't have a minute cooldown or a 2 minutes cooldown. You know, that's pretty much the focus for Affliction, right? Also, if you think about it, Affliction Warlock has pretty much no raid buffs or party buffs, right? Like for example, Enhance and Ellie have Sky Fury, which is 2% mastery, and Wind Fury. Mage has Arcane Intellect, which is pretty much damage increase to like the whole party if you have casters. Yeah, but like Cookies is not really a raid buff. It doesn't give you more DPS. How can a Cookies and Gate give you more damage in Mythic Plus? Explain. Like unless you're saying the Cookies can save your tank from not kiting, therefore more DPS. You know? Like, okay, so genuinely speaking, okay, let me ask you a question. Would you rather have Cookies or Arcane Intellect? 1 in the chat for Cookies and 2 for Arcane Intellect. Brother, there is no way, dude, there is no fucking way you guys would choose Cookies over Arcane Intellect. No way. No shot. Dude, you're saying the only reason why you're saying 1 is because you're not playing caster. Any caster that has a little bit of a brain would choose Arcane Intellect any day of the week. Any day. You know? So again, both mages have better mob control than you. Both mages are more durable than you. Both mages have better raid buffs or party buffs than you. The only way I could see the only way that I could see Affli overtaking Frost Mage if you don't count, for example, buffs. Like for example, if you already have Arcane Intellect in a party, then that's fine. If I compare the raw damage between them, Affliction has better damage than Frost Mage. But if I add the Arcane Intellect itself, then I think Frost Mage takes the cake by a little bit, you know. Also, the utility of Frost Mage is better. They're tankier than Affliction Lock. They're more mobile than Affliction Lock, you know. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That is the main difference. It's a very thin difference, but I think Frost Mage is a little bit better than Affliction Lock. Unfortunately, it is. And speaking about Frost Mage, both Frost Mage and Affliction Lock have good prior damage. Has great burst damage as well. Very durable. Party buffs. Arcane Intellect, for example. Mass barrier to the whole team. Several ways to avoid death. Right? Like for example, alter time, mirror images, shoot every 20 seconds, mass shoot, for example, your block, or I guess ice coat, right? The ability to not have ice block, the 70% DR. Cold snap can have 2 of those defensiveness up as well. So a lot of ways to pretty much cheat that, right? So yeah, I think that's why I think Frost Mage is gonna be a little bit ahead of Affliction. Maybe not numerically, but like value-wise, better. Also, Frost Mage has perma slows, which helps the tank to kite, which is actually better. But I guess curses can also be in argument, right? Curses can help to some extent. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, again, I think it's very very thin difference between both of them. Very thin difference, chat. It could go both ways. Enhancement Shaman unfortunately received some nerfs this week. So the first nerf is gonna be a 4% overall nerf. After that, it's gonna be the Tempest Change, which is actually the Tempest Change is actually a buff. Even though it does less damage above 9 targets, sub 8 targets actually does more damage than before, including the 4% nerf on top of that thing. Elite Blast also got a buff by 12%, which again kind of feels a bit clunky to play, but still a buff. So great single target. Amazing damage profile between 3 and 7 mobs, I feel like. Anything above that, they could struggle, but 3 to 7 mobs, beautiful. No complaint, likely S+ tier. If you pull very large with enhanced, let's say 2-3 packs at the same time, you might end up struggling. Single target, not an issue. They've got better defensively, they've got better utility, they've got a raid buff now. So all the problems from before have been pretty much solved. Overall, I think it's going to be one of the strongest melee, and it's quite fun to play. Elite Shaman goes next. And I'll tell you why. Even though Elite Shaman received a nerf, which again, the nerf put them from top tier to pretty much best candidate, they are still going to be amazing. They're still going to have great damage output, especially in AoE. They're still going to have strong defensiveness because they got buff there. They're still going to have great utility, a party buff. So overall, the value of Elemental Shaman is insane. You don't have prior damage, you don't have strong 1-2 targets or spread damage, but AoE is just exceptionally strong, you know? It's crazy. And now for the people that are saying you have no prior, you don't need every spec to have prior, you know? Not every spec has to have prior. Too much prior is not too good either, you know? If one DPS spec has prior, that should be more than enough for, you know, for everything else. So yeah, I think Ellie is gonna be a great choice. I think one of the best casters right now. Also has a raid buff. So the mastery buff is insane. Wind Fury as well on top of this is also insane. Yeah. Also mob control, dude. Mob control, you pretty much have 8 seconds interrupt. 8 seconds interrupt as Ellie. Could be even less than that. big stun for every pack, curse the spell, poison the spell, knock up as well, bloodlust, purge. You pretty much have everything. You can help your team also off heals. You know, off heals, curse the spells, poison the spells, knock up, stun, purge, bloodlust. You know, like you have pretty much every single tool to like handle any situation. The only thing that I don't have, you don't have prior damage, which I think is fair enough. Oh, you could have some prior, I guess, depends how you play. And your single target is not really the best. I wouldn't say it's bad. I would say above average, but not the best. Let's get close. Let's get close to wrap up this one. I think next in line is gonna be Arcane Mage. I'm gonna tell you why I don't think Arcane Mage is gonna be top tier. Even though Arcane Mage got nerfs, I think those nerfs account for a very small damage decrease. Like 3.2% of your damage got chunked down. The biggest issue right now here could be like rotational issues. I feel like it's a bit more annoying now to play Arcane Mage because a lot of people are actually displeased with the changes they got. Other than that, you're still gonna be strong. Very, very strong single target, likely the best in the game. Strong burst. Whether it's gonna be ST or AoE doesn't really matter. One of the tankiest classes in the game. Nice mob control. One of the best mythic plus utility in the game. So overall, you are gonna be best candidate. The only reason why I don't consider you a top tier is because of one specific thing, and that is I don't think you are top tier everywhere. You might be top tier for like high keys and mid level keys, but on a low level keys, I don't think you're top tier at all. You might get out DPS by a lot of auto specs here. So if I have to like include all the key levels from a casual POV, most definitely not the top tier. But still, if you play in a pyramid keys, high keys, especially caster comp, then I think it's very simple to say you are going up to the top tier for now. First, Retribution Shaman. Shaman, although didn't get a lot of changes, they are, in my opinion, right now the best healing class in the game. Several things to go into consideration. First of all, very strong DPS and HPS profile, which is going to be the biggest drive for you. Nice mob control, likely the best here. The shortest kick in the game. Knock up, AoE stun. A lot of utility, curse spell, poison spell, bloodlust, purges. You know, all of this can help you tackle mythic plus situations easier. On top of this, I think there's an incentive for you to be brought up, especially if Enhance or Ellie does not make it to the top tier because of your mastery buff, or I guess mastery plus Windfury buff, which can also be very lucrative choice for like melee comps because of your Windfury. So yeah, I think the Restoration Shaman right now is a top tier pickup. Next in line is gonna be Guardian. So because Vengeance got nerfed and them being the top tier, and also Restoration Druid not being top tier, Mark of the Wild is one of the most important mythic plus utility in the game. So you're naturally looking for the best bearer of that one. So far, it looks to be the Guardian Druid. Guardian is an extremely easy tank to play, with great self-sustain, very good damage profile, decent durability, and most importantly, it syncs well with all casters, and in all melees, and all hybrid builds. So whether you're playing Mage, Evoker, and Shadow Priest, or Outlaw Rogue, Frost DK, Enhanced, doesn't matter, because they benefit equally from Mark of the Wild. Mob control is an issue for them. I don't think you are the best there, but given the fact that the rest of the things you have, I think you can make it work. That's why I think Guardian is there. In terms of durability, I don't think you're the most tanky tank right now. I would say probably Warrior can do a better job than you, but you're most definitely above average in terms of like pure durability so far. Last but not least, Frost DK got nerfed, 5% AoE nerf, 2.5 ST nerf. I still think you're gonna do fantastic. Where you're gonna play high keys, low keys, mid-level keys. From burst damage to sustained damage, you are gonna be top tier. Your rotation did not change, just numbers. Keep that in mind. Extremely durable, has a CR, great mob control, amazing damage. In my opinion, TLDR, one of the best melees in the game. The only thing that you don't have is raid buff. Everything else is there. Outlaw Rogue did not get any changes. If anything, Outlaw Rogue right now is immensely huge. Has, in my opinion, the best Mythic Plus damage profile right now, especially for high case, which actually could be considered quite OP by some people. Poisons are going to be helpful for you to tackle any kind of dungeon. What else? You have a way to evade death by multiple sources, like for example cloak, evasion. You have tricks, which could be pretty valuable. Feint pretty much is short defensive cooldown. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, right? This dirty boy, Augmentation Evoker, a lot of people are actually considered naming this spec useless, but I still believe Augmentation is gonna be insane, especially starting from mid to high level keys. Likely a mandatory class in my opinion, especially if casters are to be meta again. The only spec in the game that can make a tank tankier, healer heal more, DPS be more durable. It might not be the best for time, but it's gonna be the best for safety. And early on in the season, safety is the most important thing. You will never deplete keys based on timer early on. You're gonna deplete based on you missing, for example, an interrupt here or a boss is too hard. Oak Evoker helps you with that. Now, given the fact that if melees become meta, then Oak value is not gonna be as high. So you might gonna see Oak dropping, for example, a bit. But if I gotta be honest with you, if ranges become that dominant, then I think Oak Evoker, starting from mid-level keys, will be a dominant spec. But then again, if you're playing low-level keys, it's not worth to play with Evoker. It's gonna be probably like triple DPS. So yeah, I think that's everything, chat, so far on behalf of the whole tier list.